Welcome back to the Leading Yourself podcast. Can you believe that we are already at the end of January? It's crazy how quickly this year is going by. And as we reach the last week of the month, it's time to bring it all together. We have spent the last 3 weeks of this month getting clear on what intentional design actually means. We talk about why New Year resolutions fail and what works instead. We got deep into strategic career planning on week 2. Last week, we talked about the power of identity. And today, this episode is about integration. We're talking everything you've learned this month and turning it into action. So here's what we're doing. Because this is new, it's a new format that I'm experimenting with. And by the way, I would love to hear your thoughts. The first half of today's episode is going to be a guided session to map out your next 30 days based on the clarity that you've gained this month. And the second half, I'm going to be answering your questions about actually implementing the work that we've been talking about this far on the podcast. So grab your journal, turn off your distractions, give yourself this time. This is how you close out January strong and set up February for success. Ready? Let's go. Welcome to the Leading Yourself podcast. This is your host, Carolina de Arriba. I'm an HR professional, coach, wife, mom, and above all things, a goal-getter. In this podcast, we're going to be digging into all things leadership, professional and career development, habits, and relationships. This is a podcast for those who want to become the best version of themselves, those who have big dreams and are willing to embrace the journey and put in the work to achieve them. My goal is to share with you the tools, tips, and tricks to help you in your journey. So let's dig into today's episode. All right. You've done the work of getting clear this month. Now let's build on it. Based on your discovery this month, what is one focus for February? Not 10 things, one. Maybe it's protecting your energy with better boundaries. Or maybe it's having one career conversation. Or actually resting instead of pushing through. What's the one thing that would move you forward? Write it down. Now, let me ask you another question. And if you haven't noticed, this is the theme of this part of the podcast. I'm going to throw out reflection questions. I'm going to put a few seconds of music so it's enough for you to hit pause and work on that question on your journal. We'll move to the next one. We're going to do just a few of these, and then we're going to jump to part 2 where as I said, I'm going to be answering your questions, the ones that you submitted. And I know that if you submitted that question, probably many others listening to the podcast have the same question. So even if you didn't submit a question, I bet that you can relate to the questions that other listeners sent. So that is how this is going to work. I know it's very different from anything we've done in the podcast before. That's why I'm so curious on your thoughts, and I would love to get your feedback. So once again, your first question is, based on what you discover this month of January, what is one focus that you're going to have in February? Just one. Let's move on to the second question. What's the smallest version of that focus? Let's say your focus is boundaries. The smallest version for you might be say no to one thing this week without apologizing. Or for example, if you said that your focus this month is going to be to have a career conversation, the smallest version might be to schedule 15 minutes to outline what you want to say. If your focus this month is to rest, the smallest version of it might be go to bed 30 minutes earlier 3 times this week. So again, what is the smallest, most doable version of your focus? Write it down. Let's move on to the next reflection question. What obstacles will definitely show up to stop you. Be honest. You know yourself. What always gets in your way? Is it you'll say yes to everyone else's priorities first? Or maybe for you is that you'll tell yourself you don't have time? Or you'll get scared and talk yourself out of it? Again, what is the obstacle that will definitely show up to stop you? We know it's not a matter if, it's a matter of when. So name the obstacle now so it doesn't surprise you later. The obstacle that will show up for me is fill the blanks. Okay, the next one. When that obstacle shows up, what will you do? Not if, remember, but when. What's your plan? Maybe it's to text an accountability partner or to come back to your why, or you'll do it anyways, even if it's scary. Write your plan down. I think a lot of us, when we start dreaming about our goals and our aspirations, we dream of a perfect world. A world where there's no obstacles. We only see the dream. We only see the aspiration. We don't see the obstacles that will come on our way. That's why I think this question is so powerful. Because you now have proof, like I do, that every time that you pursue a goal or a dream, there is always obstacles along the way. And it's those obstacles that have stopped you from reaching your goal or your dream before. And it's not because you're not capable of overcoming those obstacles. It's because you didn't plan for them. So that's exactly what we're doing with these two questions, the last one and this one. What are the obstacles that will show up? It's not a matter of if they will, they will. The question is when. And when they do, what is your plan? This can be the difference maker in this year actually achieving those goals and those dreams that you have tried to achieve before and you didn't. Now, my next question for you. Who needs to know about your February focus? Not the whole world, just one person. Who can hold you accountable? Who will check in with you? Who will remind you why this matters? I want you to write their name, and not only write their name, but actually I want to invite you to text them today and let them know or ask them to be your accountability partner this month of February. Okay, one last question that I have for you. How will you know if February was successful? Not perfect. I'm not saying perfect, just successful. What will be true at the end of the month if you follow through? What will you feel? What will be different? I want you to really get specific on this one. This is another thing that we tend to underestimate. We think about the dream, but we don't get as specific as to what success looks like. And I'm very specific on the questions that I'm asking you. I am saying, how will you know at the end of the month that you follow through? How would it feel? And what will be different? Write it down. Get specific. Okay, you just created your February plan. One focus, the smallest version of your focus, the expected obstacle and your response, your accountability partner, and your success criteria. That is not vague. That is your roadmap. Now, let's tackle some of your questions that you submitted through the podcast. And let me tell you that I'm loving this part where you actually get to submit questions. If you haven't or you missed it, I'm going to put the link again on the show notes of today's podcast episode. But now through a simple form, survey, you can submit questions every month. And in the last episode of the month, I'm going to be answering your questions. Because at the end of the day, I want to make sure that I'm adding value to you, that what I'm sharing here on the podcast is something that is helping you. As you're listening to me about any of the topics that we cover here, you have questions or you find yourself trying to apply something that I share with you and you struggle and you need more clarity, like send me the questions. I promise if you have the question, someone else is asking themselves the same question. So you're not only getting answers for yourself, but you're helping others to get answers too. Okay, the first question. I identified what matters to me, but my schedule is completely packed. How do I make space for my priorities when there's literally no time? Okay, this is probably the most common question that I get, and I was expecting it would come through, and it did. And I'm going to be very direct with you today. You don't have a time problem. You have a priority problem. I know this is harsh, but hear me out. Your calendar is full because you said yes to things that don't align with what you said it matters. And I get it. Some of those yeses felt necessary. But were they really? Here's what I want you to do this week. Look at your calendar for the next 7 days. For each thing on there, ask yourself, does this align with what I said I value? What I said I wanted to be working on, what I said impact looks like for me? If the answer is no, you have a few options. You can cancel it, you can delegate it to someone else, or you can shorten it or accept that you're choosing it over your stated priority. But stop pretending that you have no choice, because you do. Again, your choices. You can cancel it, you can delegate it, you can short it, or you can accept it and be okay with the fact that that is taking priority over what you said your priority was. The space doesn't magically appear. You create it by saying no to what doesn't matter. And yes, it's uncomfortable. People might be disappointed, but you staying burnt out and resentful isn't serving anyone, starting with you. So start with one thing, one meeting, one commitment, one obligation that you can release this week. That's your space. One thing that you can cancel this week will open up the space to work on the thing that you said you wanted to work because it's the most important thing to you. Okay, the second question. I know I need to have difficult conversations at work, but I keep putting it off. How do I actually do it? Okay. I'm guessing when you say difficult conversations at work, probably was something related with your career because that was the thing this month, but I don't want to assume. So I'm going to tackle this one a little bit more generally. You're not putting it off because you don't know how. You're putting it off because you're scared. And that is okay. Hard conversations are scary. But here's what I know. The longer you wait, the harder it gets. And the cost of not having the conversation is probably higher than you think. So here's how you actually do it. First, you get clear on what you want to say, not what you're afraid they'll say, but what you want to say. Write it down, practice it out loud. The second step is schedule the conversation. Literally put it on the calendar. Don't wait for the right time. There is no right time. Just, hey, can we schedule 30 minutes to talk about whatever the topic is that you want to talk about? Again, I don't want to assume that this is a career conversation because we talk about planning your career. So just schedule, put it on the calendar. And third, remember that this conversation isn't about being liked. It's about being respected. You're not asking for permission. You're communicating what you need. And here's the thing. Most of the time, the conversation goes better than you think. The version in your head is always worse than reality. That has been always my experience. So pick a date this week, next week, at the latest, schedule it. Prepare what you want to say and then have the conversation. You'll survive it, I promise, and you will feel like this big weight has been lifted from your shoulders. Okay, the third question we got. I started the month motivated, but I'm already losing steam. How do I maintain momentum? Yeah, this is real. January energy fades fast. Here's the truth. Motivation is not sustainable. Structure is. You can't rely on feeling motivated. You need a system that works even when you don't feel like it. Here's what works for me. I love to have like a weekly check-in every Sunday for 15 minutes. Now I'm doing it on Fridays because I'm doing this exercise together with my team at work. And I ask myself, what were my weekly wins? I also ask myself, where did I got off track? And then I ask, what is my priority for next week? I'm also adding, what am I learning this week? And who is someone I want to shout out or show gratitude to this week? And this short reflection, I call it 15 minutes, but it takes less than 15 minutes to be honest. Maybe at the beginning, it will take the full 15 minutes, but then you'll do this in autopilot. And I'll tell you that these few minutes every week keeps me from drifting. And when I notice I'm losing steam, I don't beat myself up. I just ask, what needs to shift? Maybe I took on too much. Maybe my focus isn't actually the right focus. Maybe I need more support. The goal is not perfection. The goal is awareness. So if you're losing steam, don't give up. Just recalibrate. What's the smallest thing that you can do this week to stay connected to that thing that matters most to you? Do that. Do that smallest thing. That will keep the momentum going. Okay, we have another question. What if I do all this work and then realize I want something completely different in a few months? Good. That means you're growing. Listen, intention doesn't mean that it has to be rigid, right? It doesn't mean rigidity. You're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to want something different as you learn more about yourself. The goal of this work isn't to lock yourself into one path forever. The goal is to stop drifting, to make choices from clarity instead of fear or obligation. And in 3 months from now, you realize that you want something different. That's information. Then you adjust, you recalibrate, and you choose again. The alternative is what most people do. They avoid choosing anything because they're afraid of choosing wrong. And then they look up 5 years later and realize that they've been living someone else's life. I would rather have you choose, learn, adjust, and then choose again. That is growth. So, my advice to you, stop worrying about changing your mind later. Make the best choices you can right now with the information that you have. Future you will figure out future you's needs. Okay, one more question. I think this is the last one that I have. I'm so excited that there were so many questions and so good. These are amazing questions. The fifth question says, how do I do this when people around me don't understand or support what I'm trying to build? This one's hard and it's common, more common than you realize. Here's what I want you to know. You don't need anyone to understand. You just need them to respect it. When you start changing, setting boundaries, making different choices, prioritizing yourself, people notice. And some of them won't like it because your change threatens their comfort. But here's the thing, their discomfort is not your responsibility. You don't owe them an explanation for why you're choosing yourself. You don't need to convince them this matters. What you need is 1 or 2 people who get it. Find them. They might not be in your immediate circle, and that is okay. This community, finding a coach, a friend who is in a similar path, those can be great people to add to your circle as you're going through this process. And with the people who don't get it, you don't have to make them understand. Just say, this is important for me. I need you to respect it. I'm not asking you to understand it. I'm not asking you to go in this path with me. I just need you to respect my choice, even if you don't fully understand it. And if they can't, then you have information about that relationship too. Not everyone is meant to go where you're going, and that is totally okay. And from my personal experience, once you realize that and you're okay with that, gosh, that is so freeing when you get to that moment. And I know that me saying it to you, it's not enough. You need to experience it yourself, because that was my experience. I heard the same thing that I'm telling you from someone else, and I still needed to experience it. I don't need you to understand. I'm not asking you to follow me in this path. I'm just asking you to respect my decision. That's it. And once I found those words, and you can find your version of those words, when I actually have the conversation, because I was so afraid of having the conversation, I never had. The moment I had that conversation, everything changed. And those people started to support me. Maybe not in the way that I would want them to support me, but they were respecting me and giving me the space to work in the things that matter to me. Okay, that's it. You have your February roadmap. You have answers to the questions that were holding you back. So now it's your turn to bring this to action. And look, it's not going to be perfect. You're going to have days where you forget, where you fall back to old patterns, where you feel like you're failing. That is completely normal. That means you're human. The practice is coming back again and again. Now, if you want to go deeper in this work, I have 2 ways I can support you. First, you can join our Patreon community. This is where we do this work together. You get full workbooks, extended bonus content, and a community of people that are in the same path. The link is on the show notes of the podcast episode. And second, if you're feeling called to go deeper, I have 2 remaining coaching spots opening, just 2. This is one-on-one work for people who are ready to make real changes and want someone in their corner helping them navigate those changes. If you're thinking, yes, that's me, then look at the link on the show notes of the podcast episode to save your spot. And let's talk about whether this is the right fit for you. You can schedule a discovery call where you and I can talk about more in detail and see if this is what would help you this year gain that momentum that you're craving and getting the change that you're looking to create this year. And also, I want to say I am so grateful that you're here. I am enjoying this new format of the podcast. I hope you are too. Please keep sending me questions. I read everything, and I will answer more of your questions next month. Thank you for doing this work, for showing up, for choosing intention over autopilot. Next week, we start February, and our theme for February is going to be energy management, because you need to understand your capacity if you're going to actually do what matters. Until then, take care of yourself. Have an amazing week ahead, and I'll talk to you next Monday here on the Leading Yourself podcast. Okay, my friend, that's all I've got for you today. But before you go, 2 quick reminders. Number 1, if we're not already friends on Instagram, let's get connected. You can find me as Leading Yourself Podcast. Number 2, make sure you're subscribed to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am incredibly grateful that you're in this journey with me. I want to leave you with one last thought. I want to remind you that you're destined for more and that every step that you take brings you closer to becoming that best version of yourself. Embrace each day as a chance to learn, grow, and chase your dreams. The world needs you to shine brightly, so go out and show up fully and authentically. Take care, and I'll see you next time.